I do believe that you should bring in people that are passionate at the thing that you're not. I'm not passionate about being an engineer. I'm passionate about producing music and mixing and songwriting. But engineers are a different thing. It's like the person who's like really excited to mic a drum kit. That is not me. And they have all these exciting things they want to try and they're good at it. It's just not me. So I usually bring in, one of the like 5 amazing engineers that I know in the city. And then we book a couple full days and we just, everybody, it's like an idea dump. Everyone in the band can lay down anything they want. And then I'm producing it. So I'll go through and like edit it after, and everybody has to like be real mature about maybe having their ideas not used. You know what I mean?
That kind of goes back to what I said earlier about it. You need to look at what serves the song best.
Yeah.
And when you extrapolate that further into a full project,
totally,
you have to look at what serves the project best.
And sometimes my ideas get cut, you know?
Yeah.
And sometimes even Kevvy can have a bad day and not have his ideas used. No, but I have had like someone in the band be like, that's really wordy, man. That's like Eminem rap god wordy. And I'll be like, he's right.
Welcome to the Vocal Lab. I'm Sarah Ramsey, and this show aims to pull back the curtain on the entertainment industry, where veterans give up-and-coming artists some of the information they wish they'd had when they were just starting out. Sort of a music industry primer, if you will. I am so glad you're back with us today. And here's the thing. This is part 2 of our interview. So if you haven't checked out part 1 yet, go back and check that out, because there's a lot of groundwork for stuff that we might refer to today. You might want to watch it first. So check that out and then come back and join us, and let's get going. Everyone's routine in the studio looks different. Some people write in the studio, and for some people that writing is a different process, and writing and producing can very much get blurry too, depending. What does your studio process look like?
It's changed over the years. I feel like the way I'm doing it now is my most efficient way of doing it, which is that I set aside time every week to write music for my projects.
Yeah.
So important, because I'm a producer for other people, and you really can get swept up in everybody else's stuff and backburner your own stuff. And it's like, I don't think that's why I'm here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm taking time to write my own music like 2 or 3 times a week right now, but I'm also really busy with comedy and other music albums. So right now the move is that I'm going to write, I'm writing a new Fake Shark album right now. So I'm going to focus on that at home and do little home demos with really crude guitars that will be played well by our guitar player at some point. But I'm going to just try and write without being very judgmental of myself as many songs as possible. And then set a sort of like a deadline for it, which I think will be probably end of next month. And then the boys will come in and we'll reserve the control room here, and I'll bring in an engineer, because I do believe that you should bring in people that are passionate at the thing that you're not. I'm not passionate about being an engineer. I'm passionate about producing music and mixing and songwriting, but engineers are a different thing. It's like the person who's like really excited to mic a drum kit. That is not me. And they have all these exciting things they want to try and they're good at it. It's just not me. So I usually bring in, one of the like 5 amazing engineers that I know in the city. And then we book a couple full days, and we just, everybody, it's like an idea dump. Everyone in the band can lay down anything they want. And then I'm producing it. So I'll go through and like edit it after, and everybody has to like be real mature about maybe having their ideas not used. You know what I mean?
That's the thing with like, and that kind of goes back to what I said earlier about it. You need to look at what serves the song best.
Yeah.
And when you extrapolate that further into a full project,
totally,
you have to look at what serves the project best.
And sometimes my ideas get cut, you know?
Yeah.
And sometimes even Kevvy can have a bad day and not have his ideas used. No, but I have had like someone in the band be like, that's really wordy, man. that's like Eminem rap god wordy, and I'll be like, he's right. Okay. But I think it's like, at a certain point I decided to make this rule when I'm making songs that if I'm getting a feeling about anything, I'll just delete it. And then just I have to beat it. Sometimes though, I'll do that and then I'll keep remembering it.
Yeah.
And I'll be like, I'll try it again.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? I think it's like you really have to listen to your own intuition about this stuff.
Totally.
And it's like if you made a song and it's checked all the boxes of songs you like, but you still don't feel anything at all while you're listening to it and you don't want to show anyone, then it's probably not a good song.
Yeah.
And I have a lot of those. So, yeah.
But I also think, I mean, I've talked about this with a lot of different guests actually, but I do think that part of the songwriting process is that you also have to write the shit.
Yeah.
In order to write the good stuff.
I think there's something to that Malcolm Gladwell 10,000 hours idea. Like, it's like, I think you will have worked out a lot of kinks in your process in that time. And I think you kind of are an expert at that point. Like, it's just experience, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You learn along the way and all of those pieces.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the reality of life on tour.
Okay.
So as a singer specifically, there's some pretty, I mean, you alluded to this earlier when you were first sort of introducing yourself, but the realities of life on tour as a vocalist are real.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of things that impact it. Environment, sleep.
Yeah.
All the, like, any press that you have to do and the amount of talking over ambient noise that you have to do.
That's the worst part.
All of that stuff, right?
Yeah. That's when I lose my voice. It's like talking after and meeting everyone after the show is like so important to me.
Yeah.
But yeah, I will say, like, I love touring. Like, that's actually my favorite part of all of being in a band and making music. Is like, if it was up to me, I'd just only be on tour. Like, I love it so much. I love the camaraderie. It's interesting, like halfway through the tour I just did, which was 5 weeks, I was thinking about it and it's like, it's pretty great. I get to wake up with my best friends, maybe there's a long drive, but even those are fun.
Yeah. When the hang is good, the hang is good.
The best. And even if we're not talking, we all have such similar tastes that we listen to podcasts and like audiobooks and stuff like that, music. So that part rules. Then you roll up to the venue. Your friends that you're on tour with are there. We're all close. Catch up with them. Probably all go for lunch together and then do sound check, which is fun because playing music's fun. Then there's usually an opening band and they're usually good. So get to see that. Then you get to meet everybody and sell merch. That part's fun. Then you perform, which is the funnest part. And then, like, we're the middle band on that tour. Then we get to watch our friends crush it. And then we all hang out with the fans and the other bands all night. It's the best.
Yeah.
It's my favorite.
Yeah.
But I do lose my voice a lot and it's usually from talking after the show.
Yeah.
And it's like all the vocal training I've been spending so much time on goes right out the window when there's club music and people asking me questions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have talked to students along the way who are touring a lot about the concept of, especially when you're at the stage in a career where you're still working your own merch table and meeting fans after the show and that kind of stuff.
Yep.
Or doing like VIP events before or after, whatever.
Yeah.
The best thing that you can do for yourself is cultivate a really good, interested listening persona, because fans are going to love to tell you about themselves.
That's true.
So if you can come up with like one or two sort of more a handful of like standard questions that you can ask fans, and then you get to do all your talking with your body language, and you are just an engaged listener, and they are doing the talking, not you.
Yeah.
That saves your voice.
That's a great idea. Yeah. Yeah, I should.
And they still get to feel like they're engaging with you.
Yeah. Yeah. I am such a people pleaser that it's like, I know I'm losing my voice when I'm talking to everybody. And there's like a lineup, like I want everyone to feel like appreciated. I'll even like just feel bad. It's like, oh, you came here for little old me. Like a lot on this tour, it was like, you know, people that have been wanting to see us forever, and they finally get to. And this, like, I keep thinking of this couple that I met in Montreal where it was like they barely spoke English. So I wanted to make them feel like really appreciated, but it was like kind of tough. And they were like, we drove 19 hours to come here to this. And it's like, oh my gosh. Oh my, thank you. So I want to like really make them feel appreciated. And then, you know, there's this awesome fan who got my face tattooed, and it's like, okay, well, I feel like I owe you, like, and she's totally cool. She's not acting like I owe her anything, but I really want her to know I appreciate her coming to like 5 shows on, you know, and it's like, man, like I want to talk to these people forever and just like let them know how much I appreciate it, you know? Yeah. And so I hear all of that you're saying, and I agree that those are moments where you really, really want to make people feel special. Yeah. And here's the thing I'm going to challenge you with. All right. Because I'm putting on my Kevvy loves a challenge.
Kevvy loves a challenge. Sarah's putting on her vocal coaching pants. Okay. So here's the thing. You want to make those people feel special. But what about the people who show up the next night who also want to see the best show? That's true. And if you burn your voice out that night, then you don't have... I mean, I had Mike Reno on the show talking about that concept that everybody that shows up... For them, it's the first night of the tour. It's true. And they want to see the best show of their life. Yeah, it's true. Doesn't matter that it's your 50th show of the tour, right? Yeah. So it's how do you balance yourself out to bring your A game to everybody? True. And if you burn it all out on one person, then the next crowd's not going to get it from you. Yeah. And honestly, like, the first song in our set is the highest in my range too. And I would be like, oh man, if I'm cooking my voice tonight, that's going to suck tomorrow. And a couple nights it did. Yeah. So yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. It's interesting too, like doing comedy, they lose their voice too. Like, oh yeah. You know, talking is so hard on your voice. Yeah. And I think people who talk for a living don't often, this is obviously a vast generalization, but often don't ever think about things like voice training or voice care, vocal hygiene, any of the things that can make that easier for them. And they don't use monitors. So like I use in-ear monitors. So a lot of my vocal parts, I'm actually like not pushing at all. And like I'm pushing less than if I'm talking. Yeah. And those people are like yelling, and then comedians love to go drinking after too. And that's, I just went and did a special in Portland, and it was like 2 days in a row, and the comedian the first day was great, and the next morning he woke up with no voice. Yeah. And he's not even a party guy. Like we just like went to a diner that night. He just woke up and had like no voice. And he used some of the bring your voice back straw in the bottle thing treatment. It came back. Yep. So there's a reason that helps reduce swelling in your vocal folds. I can't believe how magical that is. Oh, yeah. Absolute magic. Yep. Yeah. Yep. You know what's funny too about being someone who's like relatively new to doing a lot of vocal warm-ups is everyone who's around you all the time just has to like deal with it. Like just the weird, embarrassing pulling my tongue out, twisting it with my shirt and going like, ah! Like it's like so embarrassing at first, and then it just becomes part of everyone's life. Then you just realize it's like, okay, if you were an athlete, would you be embarrassed to warm up your body before you ran the 100-meter sprint? That's a great point. Hell no, you wouldn't. That's part of your job. Yeah, it's true. Yeah. And also if your bandmates are sad about it, it's like, I think you want me to sound good tonight. Yep. Friends. Yeah. So shut up. Twisting my tongue over here. Kevvy's got some tongue twists to do. Kevvy needs some me time. Yeah, exactly. So let's talk about moving into the world of comedy. Okay. And sort of how that happened, what that looks like?
Yeah. So basically what happened, like I've been a stand-up comedy fan since I was like a pretty young teenager. What really got me into it was there is a comedian named David Cross, and he had a sketch show that I loved called Mr. Show. If you've ever seen Arrested Development, he plays Tobias, the never nude. He's a great stand-up comedian.
Never nude.
Yeah. And Bob Odenkirk from Breaking Bad, Saul Goodman, was his partner on Mr. Show. It was the two of them. And it was like sketch comedy shows, like very Monty Python-esque. But David Cross always would have punk bands open for him on his stand-up tours. And I thought that was cool. And then his first album came out on Sub Pop Records, which is like one of the coolest labels ever. They discovered Nirvana and Soundgarden and all these bands. So when his first ever album came out and it was on like a punk label, I was like, that's so cool. And it made me get even more into him, and then discover, like, because comedians will often like talk about each other in interviews and like who's good. So I got like really into it already. And then I was producing a singer named Kate Morgan, and she was in Vancouver, and she was dating a comedian. And so I just went with her to his show. And then I just became friends with some comedians. And then before I knew it, like all my friends were comedians. And then this one comedian, I just asked if I could like record a couple of his sets just to see how it would work. And then after we did like maybe like 5 or 6 shows, and one of them was Halloween, and it was like insane. So I didn't even really talk to him about it. I just like cut it into an album, and then he just released it, and it got like a lot of radio play on Jamie Foxx's Sirius XM channel and Kevin Hart's channel. So then the next thing was Ivan Decker was like, I want to do an album. Can we do it? And then so I did it, and then it won the Juno. So that was like my second album ever. And the comedy category hadn't been around since the 70s. Like it wasn't a category for like 30 years. And the last time it was, the winner was the Strange Brew soundtrack, the Rick Moranis movie.
Oh,
yeah.
I know.
Yeah. So then it wasn't, the first year it was a category, the album I produced for Ivan Decker won.
Yeah. And
then the next year, the album I produced for Sophie Buttle won. And then Jonathan was like, why don't you just start your own label here? So
you seem to be doing a thing. Why don't you just do the thing?
Yeah. So I was like doing all these albums like every week for a while. I've done like, it's got to be close to 100 comedy albums at this point, because a lot of people will do several albums for them.
Yeah.
We just realized Comedy Here Often, which started I think 5 years ago, we're about to release our 40th album.
Wow.
Pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now it's like a big part of my life. And then what's cool is that just from being suggested by comedians I've worked with who are like doing bigger things, I've gotten to do some like pretty big comedians. Like there's this amazing comedian named Mae Martin, and she did Netflix special. So I did the audio for that. And it was nominated for the Juno this year. And then I just did this cool one that for this New York comedian named Colin Quinn, and it's like all about mental health, and the audience are just therapists. Like,
wow.
Yeah, I'm getting to do like all these like cool like big ones.
Yeah.
And I'm just such a fan. Like, so I spent like so much time like making sure that mix was like amazing. Like, I just care so much about it. So yeah, there's like, I just kind of fell into it, honestly, just from being a fan and being friends with a bunch of comedians.
Yeah.
Now I run Comedy Here Often, which is like a very successful label. So,
well, and again, for taking the moment for Kevvy to celebrate Kevvy.
Got to do it.
Let's just recognize what a cool thing it is that you get to work doing something that you love so much.
Yeah.
You know, like not everybody gets to do that. And you are doing it in not just one capacity either. You're doing it in multiple capacities.
Isn't it funny though that I'll still get so stressed about it like it's a normal day job, and I'm not always happy too. You know what I mean?
Well, and that's okay. Like life's.
Yeah, exactly. But I know I sometimes need to like realize how like cool it is. You know?
Yeah.
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 Yeah, I really love traveling, and the times I've gotten to go travel anywhere to like do a comedy taping or an album is like so fun. Like,
Yeah.
I love it. I love going somewhere and just focusing on the one thing.
Yeah.
Instead of like doing a whole bunch of things and being kind of distracted with all of them.
Actually, that's a really good point, that working, especially like the things that you do, allow you to just be sort of singularly focused on one thing at a time.
Mm-hmm.
You do lots of different things, but they're one thing at a time.
Yeah.
In many ways. Some things.
I mean, it's like there will be days where there's back-to-back sessions and they're different things.
Mm-hmm.
But I like, here's another interesting thing that I think is kind of uncommon about my process, is my songwriting sessions aren't very long. I don't feel like they need to be all day.
Yep.
So with Fion, for instance, we have a 3-hour window where we try and finish writing a demo in.
Yeah.
And then you go home with something that was like so in the moment. Yeah. And then we can come back and edit it later. But I think that's a great goal. Like, instead of like, because it's interesting, like when I first started working in studios and with producers on albums and stuff, we'd be there like 16 hours a day.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like equal parts hang to focusing. And so I really like to just focus on writing a demo. Yeah. When we're first getting together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The hang is a great part of music, but it can very much, the lines can get blurry.
For sure. But I'll still do the hang after, but let's spend 3 hours on a song and see where we're at. And then we can go for a drink or something.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you've referred to your podcast or podcasts. I don't know where are you in the world of podcasting these days, Kevvy? Where is Kevvy in podcasting?
Is everywhere at all times, really, if you think about it. I used to do a podcast called Barely About Music, which was I'd just have someone on. I'd show them music and they'd react to it, which is like very in vogue now. I wish I'd done it sooner than I did.
Maybe it's time for Kevvy to can't find the word.
Yeah, reignite it.
Thanks. Yeah, sure. We'll go with that.
Yeah, and then
Re-Kevvy it.
Re-Kevvy it. I love that term. Put it in the Webster's dictionary. Front page. The one time it's not alphabetical. Yeah, and then me and the lovely Alexi here had a comedy podcast called Comedy Here Often Podcast. We had some like really big guests, but the thing is that I started that podcast when we started the comedy label because as like a flagship podcast, but I think a lot of podcasts now in comedy, there needs to be a very niche element to it to have anybody listen to it because there's so many comedy podcasts. So it can't just be like a general one anymore. And ours is very much a general one. And so we kind of put an end to it that way because it was like we were getting bigger and bigger famous guests. Like we had like Will Arnett and we had, one of my favorite comedians, Jessica Kierson. She's this New York comedian. She came on. We had Mark from Blink-182. Like we had all these like really big guests, but like the listenership I don't think was going up because it's still just at the end of the day, just like an interview. Yeah. And so basically we ended it to try and like think of like what the niche could be. And I just haven't really thought of anything I'm excited about. Like I like going on podcasts. I think I'm a pretty good guest, but I don't know if I didn't really like booking it and like every week being stressed about it.
Oh, I'm here to tell you that the back end, the admin end of booking guests, and that's a lot of work. It's
stressful. And also if you're counting on it and someone cancels, it's like, now what do I do? We just don't have an episode this week or this week is just me? Yeah. I do like it though when on the comedy podcast, I went away for a while and there was a couple episodes with just my most awkward comedian friend, Dave Harris, by himself. And that is hilarious. Those are the best episodes. Just Dave Harris being like, uh-oh, is this good? I don't think it is. Like, that's great. Yeah. That should have been its own podcast.
I only ever so far once have done a solo episode on this show. And there will be more of them over time. And I find it very awkward to sit by myself and look at the camera and talk alone
Yeah.
for 45 minutes.
Yeah.
That's weird.
Do you use TikTok?
Yeah.
Do you do vocal lessons and techniques?
I do vocal things. I mean,
Yeah.
not 45 minutes long.
Well,
but
yeah, I mean,
little ones.
I'm just saying, like, that would probably be amazing content.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm
going to follow you after this.
All right. Well,
Kevvy follows his friends.
His friends follow Kevvy back.
That's the way it works.
I am relatively new to the world of TikTok, only in the last sort of few months, but I'm learning.
Yeah.
I feel like a bit of a dinosaur learning TikTok.
It's actually
Feels like a young man's game.
It's surprisingly low pressure, though. Like, and it's because I was really like, I don't want to do another social media.
Yeah.
But it's actually kind of the most fun, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's all sorts of things on there. What I find really interesting is that, like, when I post stuff for the podcast, I'll post the social reels and I'll post them to Instagram and Facebook and TikTok, and they hit entirely differently on Instagram than they do on TikTok.
For sure.
Like, the things that have high viewership on Instagram are just like whatever on TikTok, and vice versa.
Yeah, same with our comedy label. Because we do a monthly show and we post clips of comics.
Yeah, exactly.
And it'll literally get like 1 million views on TikTok and 1/10 of that on Instagram sometimes. It's really unpredictable. And it seems like people on Instagram have different tastes than people on TikTok.
Yeah.
It's really weird.
But what it's made me realize is that I consume entirely different content on both platforms too.
Yeah.
And there are creators that I follow on both platforms, and I will swipe past them on one platform and watch them on the other platform.
I can't possibly be expected to look at this
it's
TikTok
just like
content on Instagram right now.
My brain is in a different place.
Yeah.
When you know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
So it's been interesting, sort of like watching my own psychology as a consumer.
Yeah.
While I'm trying to figure out how to be a creator. Yeah.
You know what's funny though about TikTok is you can accidentally create an algorithm for yourself you don't even like. Like, it'll be like I watched an entire, I think if you watch a whole video, it'll be like, he likes Dr. Pimple Popper. Yeah. And now that's your whole thing. And it's like, why am it's just so graphic every time I open this app now. And I like Dr. Pimple Popper, by the way.
You and me both.
Really? Oh, yes. You and I are a rare breed of people who admit that they love it, because I do love it. Yeah. And I think it's maybe the most satisfying television there is.
It's like disgustingly satisfying.
Yeah, I love it.
Yes.
Yeah. So I don't know why I use that as an example of something I don't like, because I very much like it. But it is jarring when you open TikTok and it's like some guy's scalp with a cyst and just 2 doctors pushing on either side.
Yeah.
Woo! Love it.
But I'm here for it.
I'm here for it.
Yeah. Well, there we go. Now the secret's out.
Now, what do you think we're going to get sent by people? Might be a good segment on the show. I will say, Dr. Pimple Popper, last thing I'll say about her, she has the most hilarious bedside manner for when she's dealing with the grossest thing. Like, I saw her take what seemed like a baseball stake out of an old man's neck, and she was like laughing her head. He was like, "Oh, what?" And she's like, "Look at this thing!" Like, it's like, we got to get that to the lab and see what it is. That's crazy. Like, she is so. Speaking of hiring people for a job that they're passionate about, she loves zits. She's not even embarrassed for him at all. It was the weirdest, grossest thing. Yeah. This man had been walking around like this for like 30 years because of this thing, and now it's just gone. Man, let's get that guy on a podcast. Yeah. She should have a podcast where she just tells stories.
It does feel like a bit of a visual medium.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. But I agree. You have to be careful what you consume on the For You page. I mostly actually stay off of the For You page.
Good move.
And I just watch the stuff of the like people I follow.
Yeah. It's probably smart.
Yeah. I'm
ruin your day less often that way.
Afraid of the algorithm I would create otherwise.
My Twitter algorithm, because Twitter and X now has just like fallen into doing the same thing where it just opens on For You and it's just like weird stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's just people.
Is there anything on X that's not weird stuff?
Well, now it's worse. It's worse because I used to love Twitter. It used to be my favorite because it was the best for jokes.
Yeah.
Now it's like just people fist fighting outside. It seems like that's all I see is like I was just watching one where it was like a bunch of women at the Calgary Stampede fighting over a porta potty. It's like, I mean, It's pretty entertaining, but I also don't know why I'm seeing this.
Right. I don't know how this contributes to my day.
Yeah. And also, why is it allowed on here? It's like, it seems like it shouldn't be allowed.
Well, I feel like it's become a no holds barred environment.
It is.
Yeah.
Elon.
Yeah. Why I oughta. Is there anything that you see often missed or misunderstood by artists? I know that's a very broad question.
I mean, I feel like if you are new to a record label, if I'm helping get a new artist signed, I really do try and sort of like tell them things I wish I knew about budgets and things like that.
Okay.
Because for instance, I don't think music videos are that important anymore.
Yeah.
And they used to be a thing you'd spend like $30,000 on. And honestly, the ones where we've just hired like an artist for $1,000 to make a visual cool, like neat thing.
Yeah.
Like my friend Riz, she's in this awesome band called Vows. We released a music video where it's just her smoking in slow motion and like looking up with a black background. And to me, that's more captivating than a traditional music video. I would rather kind of see something like that. And it was like really easy. It's like less pressure. I don't think a lot of people, I think most people, if they do use YouTube, they kind of put it on the background for music a lot of the times. And it seems like everyone else just listens to Spotify. So I that's one thing. If I'm dealing with like a new artist, I would say like, I don't think you need to spend a lot of budget on something like that. You know?
I think one of the things that is even a step backwards from that, like specifically speaking to listeners who are coming in with maybe not a great understanding of how record deals work.
Yeah.
Is that when you are signed to a record deal, you are being given, maybe some payment up front and certainly some budget to work with for recording and things like videos and whatever. But it's not just free money.
No.
It's recoupable.
Yeah.
So when you're making decisions about, do I spend 30, 40 grand making a music video or do I spend $1,000 making a music video? You want to think about the fact that money does come out of your pocket eventually.
For sure. Yeah. And I think like every time I write a song that gets released, to me, there's a goal for it. It's like if your album's 12 songs, it's 12 opportunities at like sync license or radio play or whatever. So I would rather spend that, that money sort of having a better chance at those things.
Yeah.
So it's interesting because like running the comedy label, comedians are the opposite. They don't want to spend like any money on anything. And then they just want Sirius XM radio play, which is how most of them make a living. So it's like two drastically different personalities I'm dealing with producing both.
Yeah.
And like making comedy albums is pretty cheap. It's kind of just the cost of recording and editing. And like, I like to get somebody else to master it.
Yeah.
It's actually really cool. Like I went to audio school and the first teacher I ever had is this guy, Greg Mindorf. And now he runs a mastering company. And I hire him. He was my teacher and I hire him to master all the comedy albums. And he mastered one that I produced for Comedy Here Often by this comedian, Andrea Jin, and it won the Juno. So I got him his first Juno. Like,
that's awesome.
That's so cool. Who knew?
Kind of a full circle moment, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kevvy loves a full circle moment if he can get it.
It's not going to die.
The callbacks. The callbacks. Kevvy's a callback king.
And that's the bumper for our second episode right there.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that piece about understanding your contract and budget considerations is important for anybody, but younger emerging artists in particular.
For sure. And I think it's like, I think for certain albums, like hiring a big expensive producer is a good move.
Yep.
And it's like, I think, I do think you should spend money on your art. I think like cheaping out on it, it's weird. It's like, sometimes I'll think this with comedians. It's like you spent your whole life writing your first hour and then you like want to not spend any money on making the album sound good is like, but now it's forever mediocre.
Yeah.
And you spent your whole life on this. Like, so it's musicians are like that sometimes too, but less often.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that really comes down to making smart choices about where you're going to. It's not about spending nothing, but it is about not spending carelessly, making smart choices about where there's going to be value.
For sure. I mean, I've never regretted spending some money on an instrument or a piece of gear or hiring a great you know what I mean? It's like, that's not something I regret spending money on.
Yeah. Yeah. Weirdest gig? Best gig? Any of that?
Okay. I think that Commodore show is one of the most special shows I've ever played.
Mm-hmm.
The weirdest gig, we played years ago at a seafood restaurant that had a club night. And
as you do.
Yeah. And it was so packed that I thought it was going to be insane. And we needn't have bothered. Like they were just dancing regardless of if we're like, I was doing banter and no one heard me. Like I was like, what is this? I think it was in Charlottetown. Is that what it is near Prince Edward Island?
Charlottetown.
Yeah.
Right? Wow. We're both trying to like call on high school geography now.
Yeah.
It's not going well.
So here's what I remember about that also was I was texting Ryan Peake from Nickelback. Name drop. And
Kevvy loves a name drop.
Let me pick that up. Now let's leave it there. I want people to see it. Because he had just lent me a bass. He's like, sweetheart, Ryan Peake. And we were texting and he was like, where are you? And I told him where we were. And he was like, go to McDonald's and get the McLobster. And boy, was he right. Great sandwich that's only there. So that was a weird one. We played, my old band played lots of foreign shows that were in like weird punk rock squats and stuff like that.
Yeah.
We played a show once where the promoter said we could stay with him and then like left during the show. And this is in Manchester. And so we had to go stay with like literally the craziest person I've ever met in my life. And it was like a squat and they were doing all kinds of drugs and listening to polka music. So it wasn't so much the show was weird, but the after the show was insane and probably the worst night of my life. They were doing This Game with a knife. Yeah. And then at like 8 a.m. I was like laying under a coffee table, like clutching my passport and my backpack.
Yeah.
And that guy went from like, let's dance. And then he's like, you guys got to get out of here. You're going to wake my girlfriend up. We're like, what? You have a girlfriend here? Like, he's like, yeah, get out. Come on, get out. Like, it's like, well, okay. Like, so stuff like that would happen on self-book tours, like punk rock tours, where it's like, man, I'm so happy I got a hotel room now. Best part of being on a record label.
Yeah.
You're not staying at that guy's house.
Oh,
yeah. There's got to be some weirder shows. It's like, oh, here's a cool one. This is a good weird one. We toured China once, and we played in an area called Qingdao, and we played at this venue, and it was us and a band called Girl Kill Girls. It was all girl band. They're so good. They played first, and then we went on, and our amps blew because it was a different type of currency or something there. And so the other band, the singer Gia, was like, I'll get us another show. And she just like somehow got us a show at a venue that is this old couple's house. Like they have a stage and stuff. And I remember the venue's called the Hot Cat, but we had to wake them up to like, and they were like, all right. And then, but we literally got a party bus that took the crowd and the bands there. And then we went in and like we run backing tracks and there's like no way to do that. And so we just ran them through the PA so the crowd could hear the click track and stuff. And my friend Kirby, who's like one of my best friends, his band War Baby, they were also on the shows. They're from here. Kirby was drunk and was climbing on me during our set and fell and landed on his front teeth and knocked them out and carried them all the way back to Vancouver, his front teeth, and got them put back.
Oh my God.
He has front teeth. But I saw them on the ground. Like,
oh my God.
When his head hit the ground, like we all like felt it. Yeah, that's probably the weirdest show.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That old couple was great. They were like, okay, like so tired and 75 years old. Also, after that show, I went out back just to get some air because it was so hot in there, and 500 cats came running out.
Well, what did you say it was called?
The Hot Cat.
The Hot Cat.
And I love cats, but I was kind of scared.
Yeah.
I sat down and they just all started surrounding me. It felt like Batman Returns when Selena Kyle fell out the window and then all the cats bit her and she became Catwoman.
I mean, it does feel like you're going to get slowly eaten by cats.
I think cats are always looking for a good opportunity to eat their humans. And I love them. I think my cat would eat me if he could. I think he's just kind of waiting.
I think about that a lot with our cats.
Yeah.
Like, how long would we have to be dead before they would just start eating us?
Minutes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like my cat, every morning I wake up and roll onto my back in bed and he comes and sits right here, close eye contact. He's just checking to see if I'm still breathing. Very opportunistic.
One of my cats in the evening, first off, she like lies across my neck and makes biscuits in my hair. So I have the sideways beehive every night at bed. And then once she's finished doing my hair for me, then she turns over and lies on her back on my mouth, like across my nose and mouth. And I think she's trying to suffocate me.
Yeah. She's a pro.
Yeah.
It's not her first
She
rodeo.
wants to love me to death.
I love cats so much. Such a cat guy.
I hated cats my whole life. And you do like cats a lot. You've got the 3 little kittens on your arm.
I did a Keanu Reeves thing there. That was weird.
Sorry.
Sorry, everybody.
I hated cats my whole life. And I'm super allergic to cats.
Yeah.
Which is probably why, because I'd like never gotten to like why I never got to like them, because I could never be around them.
Yep.
Also, my dad hated cats and would like turn the hose on them and stuff. And then my husband wanted a cat so badly.
Yeah.
And because of other health stuff, I ended up on a really high dose of antihistamines just all the time, every day, forever.
Yeah.
And I did a bit of research and figured out if you get a cat when they are a tiny kitten and they grow up with you, you are much less likely to be allergic to them. So I said to him, we can get a cat, but we're going to try fostering first. But we can get a little kitten. But if I'm allergic, you have to choose between me and the cat, and you're not allowed to choose the cat.
That is a very strict ultimatum.
Yes. Well, I had to be clear. I couldn't just tell him he could choose between me or the cat. Yeah. I don't think I'd win. We now have 2 cats.
Well, to be fair, it is a cat that's also a hairstylist. I don't think I've ever heard of that before.
I mean, Lucy's got some magic powers. I'm just saying.
Lucy
does every night the sideways beehive,
cute,
but only on the right side of my head.
Well,
never on the left.
Trying to give you like a Skrillex cut.
Yeah,
I think. Yeah. Really into 2010 sideways EDM hairstyles. Your cat.
Is there anything that else that you think is really important for artists to know that we have not touched on today?
I think that just because you're signing a record deal doesn't mean you're going to be famous is one thing. And also, just because you've signed a record deal doesn't mean you get to quit working hard. I think you actually have to work way harder.
Mm-hmm.
You have to match the level of intensity of your team. I think that touring is the funnest thing, but it's also where you can get on your pal's nerves the quickest.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it's funny, like, I met this band once that was on tour for like 7 straight months, and they had a no talking at all in the van rule. And I remember being like, that's kind of lame. But then I heard Mariana's have a no music in the bus rule. And I kind of get both things just because it's nice to just go and just be peaceful, and there's not going to be an argument, and there's not going to be turning off somebody's music just to bother. Like it's amazing how petty it can get even with your best friends. So yeah, it's like you really have to be a saint with the people that you're around all the time, and overly considerate and overly like not taking things personally. Yeah. And then I just think like in the industry, like word travels quick if you're really difficult and rude. So, and that's comedy and music. And so
it's a small world.
It really is. So it's like, you know, for instance, like I'm helping like book a comedy tour right now. I only want to work with people who are going to be easy to work with. Everyone's funny. You know what I mean? If you're brilliantly funny, but like really rude and egotistical, I'm never going to work with you.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter to me if you're, you know what I mean? Like,
who wants to hang out with a dick?
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah. So I don't know. I feel like it's like, I guess it's just like be patient with everything and don't coast at all, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, like how we were talking about how we're both like students to it. It's like, I think that's a good mentality to stick with. You know?
Yeah. Agreed.
Thank you.
Well, I really appreciate Kevvy coming on Sarah's podcast today.
Kevvy appreciates you. He really does. He really is happy to come hang out with Sarah.
Where can people find you, Kevvy? Web, social, upcoming things?
Yeah. So my band is Fake Shark Music on all the socials. I'm on Instagram, Dr. Kevvy, because the guy who took Kevvy got it and then posted one photo of himself at a wedding and then never posted again. And it's kind of unfair, honestly. You think I like being Dr. Kevvy? So there.
Kevvy doesn't like
Kevvy
being Dr. Kevvy.
Not at all. So yeah, it's just the Fake Shark Instagram and TikTok, I would say, would be the best places to find me.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like doing, it's another cool thing about TikTok. I like doing live TikToks with other friends elsewhere. So it's pretty fun. Like me and Charlie from Hotel Mira do them every once in a while.
Yeah.
And me and my
Charlie's
friend,
awesome.
Charlie is awesome. Yeah. And then me and my friend Ola Dado is a comedian. We did one, which was funny because he's like 22, but has no technology experience. So he's like, is it sideways? Is this right? It's just his nostrils the whole time. It was a great episode. So yeah, I like doing that every once in a while. I like,
if you like Dr. Pimple Popper, check out the nostril episode.
Absolutely. I should have Ola over and just pop his zits. He doesn't have any. He has beautiful skin. Did I answer your question?
I don't think that I knew that you could do lives on TikTok.
Yeah.
Speaking of technology dinosaurs.
Yeah. You can, and Instagram. So I kind of
Instagram I knew.
Yeah.
And I've been a guest on one.
Cool.
And I've hosted one.
There you go.
So I'm a veteran.
There you go. You go.
But TikTok, that is a whole new world.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for having me, Sarah.
Well, thank you for coming. This has been super fun.
Yeah.
And I don't think I've laughed this much in an interview yet so far. So.
I don't know. I just walked past Louise Burns in the hallway, and she's the weirdest person in the world. So I feel like there's gotta be some laughs there.
We definitely talked about some good like woman power stuff.
Louise is one of my best friends and she's one of my longest friends that I've ever had. The first album I ever produced was hers.
Yeah.
That was the first light organ release. But people don't know this. She has the most absurd sense of humor of all time. Like, we have this on our texts to each other. If you look at the conversation, it's just us sending photos to each other of random things that we see people have dropped in the street. And then under it'll be like, what happened? Like, I just sent her a picture of 3 batteries. What happened? She just sent me a picture of 1 boot. What happened? She's absurd. She's like if Tim and Eric was a person. That's
Love
what
it.
she is. Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. Maybe we need to start looking at multi-guest shows.
Oh, I would love that.
I think chaos would ensue.
Me and Wheezy together? Come on. Kevvy would love that.
All right. Well, stay tuned.
Stay tuned. Thank you.